Hi, this is Benjamin Cott for the TYPO3 YouTube channel. We already have learned a lot about side packages in previous videos. If you haven't seen them yet, make sure to check them out first. In this week's episode, we will tackle a new challenge provided by our front-end designer Frank. We will add new layouts to our website and show how easy this can be done in TYPO3. So stay tuned. Hey again. As we continue to build our website, as you can see on the front-end page right now, this is what we currently have achieved in the previous episodes. That means we have basic output of text, the member listing we built last week's episode, functional menu and stuff like that. But this isn't exactly how our front-end designer Frank imagined our website to look after. So he provided us a new prototype for the about page. That means he imagined that we have an intro section with a background image, some text on it, 2 columns of text side by side, the member listing again, and some just additional content that can be filled afterwards. If we have a look what we've done already in the backend, we just have the possibility to fill a normal column. Yeah. So that's what we already have. This column is basically generated from a backend layout. We can provide a TYPO3 to match the front-end output, basically the appearance in the backend, to make it easier for editors to find the right place to put the content in. We currently have 2 backend layouts, none and nothing is TYPO3 default. So at our homepage, we say, okay, we can see here we only have 1 column available that's shown by the blank image we provided. And we will using the default layout for the homepage and all subpages of that. That means if we now go to the team page, for example, we do not need to provide this information again, because TYPO3 will know that's already set before if we have the backend layer subpages of this page set. So the correct layout will already be taken. So we also can see here that we only have the normal column available. To enhance this functionality, we can add backend layouts through database records. We always will prefer providing layouts in configuration files, but I will show that for now because it's also more easy to understand what we will be generating and how the output will look afterwards. And also we can export the configuration from here. So I already prepared the configuration for the new about page that contains 2 columns separate to each other, 1 column for as a highlight section, I called it, and additional content. So if we now edit the record in the backend, we will find the possibility to create a new name for that record. We can provide an icon, and we can provide the configuration how the backend should look afterwards. So that basically means we have the middle left, middle right, the highlight column, and a normal column for additional content. This is also what the editor will see afterwards as we apply this backend layout to the page itself. If we now go to the about page, we see, okay, Frank already provided an HTML mockup, so it's easier for us to know what we will implement afterwards. And we can now, since we enabled the backend layout in the list module on that page, we can just select it here. That means we go to the about page, click edit, and appearance, there is a new database demo layout. It will not show an icon here because we didn't have provided one. We come to that later. But if we now have a look at the page view again, we will see, okay, this has changed now. The configuration we provided is also now shown here in the backend. That means we have a middle left column, we have a middle right column, a highlight column, and a column for normal content. As you can see, the content that was already before in normal is now also placed in normal again. This comes through the configuration itself, where we need to provide so-called column numbers or col positions. We can edit them manually. So if we now, for example, edit the column normal, we can enter any name we want for that. And we need to provide an integer for the value in the database that's later on referenced, so we can fetch the content at the correct places. So this looks basically just a bit more like the stuff Frank has already provided. So if we now go to the front end and have a quick look, okay, we have the team member listing here that's in the highlight section. So why don't we add it just? So as before, we use the subpages content element for that and just provide the team page as parent. So we get our subpages listed below, so we can save that. And we provide some text. We will just copy that over here and add some basic text to the positions. Content here, saving that. That must go to header, save that. Fine. And we also take the other content here and place it into the column next to it. Switch the header out, place it here, save. And then we have everything in place except for the normal part that we can also fetch from here. That's this one. And we're just adding the content. So just a normal paragraph. So just save it and close it. And we will now disable, as in the previous episodes, the HTML mockup for now. That will mean if we now switch back to the front end of the About Us page and just hit reload, we see, okay, that's not what we expected. Because only the normal column is getting rendered into the front end. This is because of two stuff. TYPO3 needs always explicit configuration for what it should do. As you can see here, this is the setup typo script provided by the site package builder, and the template that should be taken for the front-end rendering is defined here. So we currently have defined a page.ts demo default template that's taking the template default, a demo clean backend layout that's taking the template clean, and if none of this matches, we will take the layout default. So, but our database record is completely missing here. That means if we now want to add a new layout for that, we have to create it first. We would start with just creating the template file for itself. That means we go to our demo extension, into resources, private, template, page, and then you can see, okay, we have the clean HTML file and the default HTML file. And we will now create a file that's called about. So that's the About Us page. And we can now assign this to TYPO3 so TYPO3 knows what's getting rendered. Since we're using database records here, we have to have a look at what's the actual UID of the record of the database backend layout we want to add. In this case, this is 2. That means we now need to write 2 equals text 2 dot value equals about. So that means if we now just refresh the front end and hope the caches are cleared. No, they're not. We flush the caches, hit reload, and you can now see everything is gone. But only the about us part is rendered. That means we can take full control over the HTML template if we want. Since we're lazy folks, we want to take parts that's already there, like the menu or footer or whatever we defined in our default layout for the page itself, like the navbar, and then we're just rendering the section main. So we can just hit to an existing template and just copy over what we need. We take the clean one, for example, or let's take the default we provided, add this to about us, also add about us here, so we can see the correct template is loaded. If you now hit refresh, you see, okay, the about us template is rendered, and that's basically the default output of the content. Content is getting rendered by the TypoScript object lib dynamic content, and there we can provide a call position. This call position is matching the one you defined in the backend. In that case, we have 11, 12, 10, and 0. So we can now just add all of these to that page. Would be 10, 11, 12. That's the content we want to add here. And we kick the about us for now. Back to the front end, hit reload. We can see, okay, now we're getting a bit more content. That means we can see the menu we built last time. Also, we can see some more content is getting out here. That means this one would be the one on the left on top, and this one on the right. So the only thing we need to do now is just getting it in order, so it looks like our front-end designer provided. We will hit for that the backend again, and just copy over the HTML markup our front-end designer provided. So copy that, hit back to the template, and we're just pasting it above so we can replace the stuff afterwards. Format document, so it's correctly intended. Hit reload, and we can see, okay, we got the provided markup again, the columns, and the content below. So the only thing we need to do now is just replace the default content our designer provided with the actual content from the database. So we now have the column call post 0 at the bottom, and that would be the last one in the template, and we just replace that completely with that one. Correct indentions, save. We have, I guess, 10 for the highlight section. That would be the section above, where currently the card deck is rendered. So we also replace that one. And then we have the both positions left and right for the content above, and that would be these. So also replacing that. And the last one will be here. That can also be removed. So if we now hit the front end, we should see, okay, at least elements are getting rendered. I guess some white space into the, made it by copy pasting it into the backend. But member listing is completely correct, and the bottom column is auch rendered. So that means we already have achieved half of the way. We will just correct the spacing in the content elements so it doesn't look a bit broken and it matches more what we've seen in the provided template. So that's on the first one. We can now see here that's the second one. Oh, that one we already have. So left one is missing. Yeah. Also create it here to normal paragraph. Hit front end. Okay, and then now we should see, okay, that's gone. That means all we did already is working. So the last part we have to completely finish the job is to make the about us text and the description below that maintainable. Since this is no regular content in our case, we will fetch the data from the page record itself. For that, we can have a look again at what data is already provided here. So we go into fdebug, take a look at all. Oops, that was the wrong one. Have a look at the output, and we'll see, okay, page title is above, so about, so we can just use that. But this is a custom variable we assign, so we will get the data from the page directly. So since we want to have the title about, but we want to have displayed in the front end about us, we need to take a different field here. So that would mean we will edit the page, go to the page itself, and now we have, for example, the subtitle available here. So we will write about us. Yes, seems correct. Save that. Hit frontend again, refresh. And we now should see in the data the field subtitle containing about us. That will mean we can just hit to the template itself and just replace the about us with data.subtitle because it's already filled. Back to the backend, we could now use the abstract. I've already pre-filled that. So that would be abstract here. We copy that, hit back the editor, and replace that with data.abstract. That one. Yeah. And just hit reload to see, okay, data still coming out. We now have an exclamation mark that shows, okay, data is coming from the database. The last thing missing is exchanging the background image here. We have in TYPO3 the possibility to provide additional resources to pages. We already made use of that. That's media here. And we already have in the TypoScript setup a data processor running for the page field media, so it already fetches all files for us. We could see that if we go to the frontend again and see, okay, we have files added to the template as variable, and we can now just access it. That would mean we just see here in the template, okay, we have a background URL here. We just replace that with the record from the database. That would be f URI image files dot zero. That should be enough. We close it correctly. No, what happened? Wrong place for closing. That one is correct. Hit the front end. And we now see, okay, we also get the image. We now just put an if condition about that. That means if no image is added to the backend, there we will just not render it. The cover image you can see here will be if condition equals files.0, because we always taking the first image, so that would be fine for our case here. Just copy that, paste, remove the debug. So, like that. Hit back the front end, and we now have a fully maintainable interpretation of the markup our front-end designer Frank provided. Is that cool? I guess so. Wasn't that hard. But we did one thing just for demo purposes. We added the backend layout to the database. This is nothing you should normally do, because you will get problems maintaining UIDs and deploying your stuff to the production server. That means if we get back to the backend layout record again, you can see here that there's a button that says show page TS configuration. That will provide us the correct configuration we can add to our page TS, so we can deploy this. We will just copy that. And go back to our extension. In the configuration folder, page.ts, mod, web layout, backend layouts, you can already see that are currently two txt files. That means that named clean and default. As you can see, also the identifiers like demo default is already provided here. And so we can identify if that layout is selected by these keys. You will also see that into the page configuration in the setup TS, that you now see, okay, we only have the two here that we mapped to about, but we also have prefix with page TS, the keys you just saw in the configuration. That means if we now add a new file here and call it about, and just paste the configuration, we currently are not cleaning up the indentions. You can see it's now titled example, so we will call it about. So we can see that, and also the key for the backend layout will be named about. Now, So you can also provide easily an icon file for that. We prepared that in before, so it's called demo. Resources, default images, backend layouts, default GIF. We already prepared an about.png file for that. Just have a look if it's correct. We'll hit down public. Images about PNG, as you can see in the folder backend layouts. So we don't need to include that file now directly because our current setup consists of an backend layouts configuration that says, okay, all files that have been put into these folder will automatically be loaded. In the backend, you can check that if the stuff is loaded. If you had edited the homepage and just check in resources, you see include page TS from extensions. So you can see, okay, demo is loaded in that case. Otherwise, you could just paste the configuration below. We will just do it for now to show that also that one will show up in the selector. So if we now hit back to the about page and edit the record again and having a look into appearance, you can also see, okay, there's probably a missing file. That would be the example one we just pasted in. As you can also see, that's example here, but also about is now shown here. So except from the database demo, you can see we already added a representation, so it's easier to select for the editors from the layouts they can choose from. But that's totally to you. There's no automatic generated images. You have to do it by yourself. So we now selected for the about page the about one we loaded from page.js just to show the difference. If we now hit refresh again in the front end, you can now see, okay, there is no match because we changed the implementation here. That means the this part here has to be also added. That means the now generated key is page ts underscore underscore about. That's the identifier that the database will deliver, so we can match also the template about to that. We now hit back the front end. Or maybe we should clear the cache first to be sure. Refresh. Nothing. Why it's not doing anything? We just have a look at the selector here, whatever that is. We can cut that out later. We didn't change the key. Okay, problem easy found. We just messed up the key here. Sorry for that. We just rename it correctly to about. Hit back the backend. Close the debugging. Just double save. Okay, now it says, okay, that layout is not found. We select the correct layout, hit the front end again, refresh, and there it is again. Easy peasy. No problems here. So that's one way customizing your TYPO3 backend and adding front-end layouts or front-end layouts mapping to your backend layouts to have a more easy representation for the editor so he knows where he puts his content. This is an explicit configuration. That means if there's no matching or if we provide no matching for the correct backend layout, it will always fall back to the default layout. That means we only get one column rendered. This is fine. So if you miss something, no problem. The default one will be rendered automatically. We can also get a more dynamic to that. So that means we could do something like an naming convention, so we don't need to provide the configuration in TypoScript for that. That one is an example where we will automatically convert the backend layout keys we provide into upper camel case, like you can see here, and remove the page.js from that. That means that the backend layout key we provide, stop navigation underscore right underscore two underscore columns, will result in upper camel case the same value. Also, the database UID records will just be mapped of one HTML, or the only one that's not 100% matched is -2 in the database. That's the non-layout by default provided by TYPO3 will be matched on to none. So that's it. I hope our designer Frank is now a bit more happy, and we can see next week how we can help him again.